Welcome back to the Normalize Breastfeeding podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Simmons, and I'm excited to share with you our special guest feature for today. Before we get into it, I'd like for you to click that subscribe button below, share this video or podcast, and be sure to follow us on social media. All right, let's go. Welcome back. We are live with our guest, Jasmine Marquez, IBCLC, and author of Breastfeeding All Around the Bay. Her passion is preventative health, specifically in the field of maternal and infant child health. She received her master's in public health from San Jose State University and completed the UC San Diego lactation consultant program. She has over 9 years of experience working with breastfeeding mothers and their families. She sat on the board of the Bay Area Lactation Association from 2016 to 2019, and her first children's book, Breastfeeding All Around the Bay, will be released in the spring of 2020. The book aims to normalize breastfeeding to the youngest of readers and add much-needed diversity in children's literature. Jasmine, we're so happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
And so this is the official Normalize Breastfeeding podcast where we discuss education, experiences, advocacy, activism, and infant feeding in the community. Today we're recording live with Jasmine from the Boob Hive in Lafayette, California. And this is episode 21. Jasmine Marquez, IBCLC, creates children's book, Breastfeeding All Around the Bay. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you all to shop the Normalize Breastfeeding brand on our website, normalizebreastfeeding.org, and to support this podcast and content creation. If you're interested in being a featured guest or a sponsor, listen until the end for more information about how to get in touch. All right, Jasmine, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So were you born in the Bay Area? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was actually born in Queens, New York, and my whole family is still kind of up and down the East Coast, but we moved back out to California when I was only about 4 months old, to the Bay Area. So I'm definitely a Bay Area California girl, but it has been fun to go back and visit. But I stick out like a sore thumb when I go back to New York.
Tell me a little bit about being a San Francisco 49ers fan. This is like my favorite part of your bio.
We're 8-0. It's so exciting.
I love it.
Like 2 seasons of winning no games, we have like GQ, Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm so excited. And yeah, I have been a 49er fan my whole life and so excited that the guys are doing well this year. But even when they're not, I am a Niner faithful.
And so when you say you're a huge fan, like How big are we talking? Like, do you guys dress up like that for Halloween? Do you guys do like...
We know this year we were actually Red Riding Hood. I was the granny and my husband was the big bag wolf. But yeah, I mean, every Sunday when I was working nights at the hospital, I would not, if the guys were playing like on a Monday night or Thursday night, I'd be like, I'm out. I don't have availability. I'm busy that night. Like,
right.
We watch football all season, all day. We're a football house. So, and they just built the new stadium out in Santa Clara. So we haven't been to a game yet there, but I did go to a few games at Candlestick when that was up in the city itself. So it's fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm sure we've got some 49er fans listening out there. So I know there's that relation there. So tell me a little bit about your passion for preventative health. I know that, what did this inspire your journey into human lactation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as a nursing major when I was in college, and I volunteered at a hospital, and they put me in the emergency room, and I saw so much preventative stuff walking through the door. And I also realized that nursing was not going to be my path that I followed. And I was then trying to explore what else I could do where I could still be working with moms and families. And I started volunteering with WIC. Do you know the program, Women, Infants, and Children's Program?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, and they're big breastfeeding advocates. And I changed my major to public health. So I got my bachelor's degree in public health, and then I went on to get my master's degree in public health too. But while I was at volunteering for WIC, it was just opened up my whole new world to breastfeeding. I had no idea what an IBCLC was. I didn't know that you could like specialize in breastfeeding and help moms. And I thought I always wanted to be in the delivery room, but not going the path of OBGYN or nurse. Lactation consultant was kind of perfect. I could have my own private practice and then still work with the itty bitty babies, and you can't get much more preventative than right out the womb with breastfeeding. So it's perfect.
That is so true. That's so true. We actually have a shirt in our shop that says "Straight out of the womb."
Straight out
like, it's like, it's one of those things when you realize that if you can knock it out right as that baby's coming out, it makes just the whole journey so much easier.
Yep, absolutely.
Why were you inclined to sit on the board of the Bay Area Lactation Association?
I'm a huge advocate of networking. I think that you get a lot of opportunities offered to you when you put yourself out there and meet other professionals in your area that are doing the same thing that you're passionate about. So when I was still a CLE, I started going to the Bay Area Lactation Association meetings, and I met some of the lactation consultants there, and they had a communications position open that kind of worked with their Facebook and their the emails out to them. Exactly. Being one of the youngest ones there, I think you kind of just get, oh, millennial, Facebook, go for it type.
Right.
I'm borderline millennial, but I said sure. So I stepped into that role, and I was on that for a couple of years, and then I moved into the recording secretary position, and it was a great opportunity. Again, I met so many people, and a lot of opportunities come out of volunteering and being a part of something like that.
So true. I actually sat on the board for the California Association of Midwives here in California, but down in San Diego as like a regional rep back in, when was that? 2010, 2011. So right before I went into photography, I was considering becoming a midwife. And so my midwives kind of encouraged me. They're like, just get involved and kind of see how you like it. And I was going to school and stuff, and I liked it a lot. I think when it came to midwifery though, I was just nervous. Like, I think because like having someone else's life in your hands, and both the mom and the baby, you know what I mean? It made me a little bit too uneasy. So tell me a little bit about your clinical work. So I know that you said that you have a private practice. You worked with a little bit volunteer work with WIC. What else have you done?
I worked at the baby-friendly Highland Hospital in Oakland, California. Which was a fantastic opportunity. I worked there for a couple years, and it's not technically a county hospital, but they do get funding from the county. But it's a catch-all hospital, so you still get a lot of undocumented and people without health insurance, and it was a fantastic, humbling population to work with. And I worked there as a lactation consultant, mostly in the evenings after I had my daughter, because I was a lactation consultant before I had my daughter, my first child.
Right.
So once she came along, we tried to figure out a way to not do childcare. So I worked in the evenings, and my husband, we kind of high-fived when he came home, and I walked out the door to get to work. But and then I also work at my daughter's pediatrician's office currently. So it's a private practice pediatrician's office. So I see the new babies there also.
Very cool. Very cool. I love hearing that. There's so much to the story that brings this all together, So as a mother of a 19-month-old, what can you advise our listeners about setting feeding goals, and what does it mean if they don't achieve them?
I think setting realistic goals and like small goals so that you reach them and you celebrate those small goals, right? So if your goal is to breastfeed for 20 months and you reach 20 months and it's like fantastic, maybe I can go until 2 years or even just another month. I would like setting small goals like that. And then also breastfeeding toddlers in general is entertaining. They are all over the place. A lot of the time it's just kind of like a snack and then they're gone.
Right. They're like, oh, I don't need this right now. I need that toy over there.
Making sure I still can get it.
Right.
So just enjoying the process from when they were itty bitty, just on your chest and needing that all the time, to now where they still need you and they're still just checking in and getting a little snack. Enjoying that, even if it's short or even if it's coming to an end and both of you guys are ready. I think that's important.
So it's so funny. Like, I agree with you. It is very much like a check-in, right? And I look at it like they're developing these habits for life, right? Because any mother is going to be there for her child for their entire life, as long as the mother is alive, right? And so we do, as children, we check in with our mom, we check in, whether it's by phone or email or text or whatever. And then we're also checking in. It's fine. Grab her.
Yeah.
Yay. Hi, baby. Hi. Oh, she's like, I just woke up. I don't know you.
Mama.
Right? No worries. Do what you got to do.
Thank you.
But it's funny because even as adult children, we'll check in with our mom. We'll go and grab a snack at her house. We'll, go and have a little talk or whatever. And that is something that I feel like with my last child, that I really started to understand this concept of really relationship building. That is where this all starts. It starts at the breast, and it starts with us being able to communicate in a very gentle and patient way with our children that allows them to then grow up and have that same form of communication and relation with other human beings.
Yep, absolutely.
I think we see kind of, it's kind of, hello. Now she looks happy. She's like, I got a little bit of milk. I was thirsty.
Need some milk?
Were you thirsty?
Yes, a little bit.
But yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, okay. You said you agree.
Yeah. Yep. Checking in, starting off as infants to elementary school, to grade school, to middle school, and we're all just planting these seeds right from the womb.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I mean, of course, the general public thinks we're going to nurse them until they go to college, right?
Absolutely.
But that's not the case.
No, I don't know any 18-year-olds still nursing.
I've never seen an 18-year-old say, hey, I need to skip this test while I go get a nursing break,
Exactly.
So.
Oh, yeah. So I think that validating, I don't think anytime a goal isn't reached, I don't like to say kind of, well, it's okay, you did this, kind of like to poo-poo it or to dismiss it. Right. I think you can definitely validate goals that aren't reached, and then nice, and to kind of reflect about kind of why it wasn't reached and kind of to learn from these experiences, what you could have done differently. I know sometimes when people's breastfeeding journeys don't go as they planned, and say they have the opportunity to breastfeed again with a second child, it's important to reflect and look back and say, what could I have done differently, or what support did I need to make it different the next time. But I like the idea of validating it as a real something that you wanted to achieve and that you didn't, and it's okay, but you can also have feelings around not reaching that goal, and then to learn from those experiences to see if you have the opportunity to do it differently in the future.
Most definitely. Like when I nursed my second child, so my daughter, she weaned on a nursing strike, which I had no clue that was even a thing.
Right. Yeah.
I had no idea that nursing strikes were a thing. And so when she weaned, I mean, it was all of a sudden, and I was like, what just happened? Like, right. What did I do? What's wrong? And so she she just refused to take the breast after that. And I was like, okay, well, we got to feed you something.
Right.
And so we didn't have any stored milk because I was going to school at the time. I wasn't pumping. I was actually giving her formula to take to the daycare because I didn't have time to pump at school. And there was no real place or accommodation for me, right? And then my daycare provider also was not incredibly supportive.
Right.
There were times that I asked if I could nurse at the daycare, so that way I knew that she was getting all of the antibodies she really needed. However, she told me no, that I wasn't allowed to nurse in the house, and that I would have to sit in my car outside in the parking lot, not the parking lot, but her driveway, to feed my baby. And I have pictures on the Normalize Breastfeeding blog of me doing that, because it was just like, it became a normal thing for me. But I didn't know that that really is not normal. And she breastfed her children, so she told me that that's what she would do. And it's like, well, I didn't have enough support at the time to say, you know what, I'm gonna go look into another daycare. It was like, I gotta go to school. I don't have time for this, you know. And it's like, I'm still nursing at 8 months. I'm doing great. Like, that's the way I looked at it, you know. Like, I'm doing a great job. And so, which 8 months is really great. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I do feel like when the support is there and people are willing to let you do what you need to do for your baby, it makes it a lot easier to either reach those goals, or if they're not supportive, to sometimes not meet those goals, right?
Yeah.
The support can make a big difference.
When I was in the UC San Diego lactation program, the professor always said, you do the best you can with the information and support that you have, right? And it's so true. You do the best you can with the information and support. So education, like you said, you learned, and there's the internet now, and you can see all sorts of things and find trusted sources to get information from. But if you didn't have that information, if you didn't have that support, you do the best you can with what your circumstances are. And
most definitely,
it's great. The effort that people put in, it's fantastic.
It is. And I am definitely one of those every drop counts type of women. So I feel like if you try for the first several hours of your baby's birth and you're unable to latch and you're having pain and you're cracked nipples the next day, and I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and like force you to breastfeed. I'm not going to do that. I have a little bit more education now, so I can say, listen, let's look at your baby's mouth. Maybe we need to refer you to an IBCLC, and maybe she can refer you to a craniosacral therapist if there's like a tie or something along those lines. But, and I know they're doing a lot of revisions now, like in the pediatrician's offices as well, which is really great because ties have been a huge issue for tons of moms. Okay. I'm going to give you my little theory behind tongue ties.
Okay.
I have no research to prove this. I like to have theories. I don't know what it is. But my theory around tongue ties is that a whole generation of women were kind of forced to bottle feed because they had to go to work, right? Because of the Industrial Revolution. I believe that somewhere along our genetic patterns, our babies' bodies, or our infants now that come out of our bodies, they've evolved. I believe this is a form of evolution, and they're creating this tie to allow them to be able to better latch onto a bottle, because infant feeding is the source of all health, right? So if we can't latch on, we can't survive. So that is my theory. I think that it's really like evolution that has really like said, like, no, you need this tie under here so that you can get the best latch with this new source of your infant food.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good theory, because it is. I always appreciate when we do the oral assessments. Like, I don't like that we have to stick so many things in babies' mouths when they first come out, because then we can get a oral aversion. But if moms have signs of cracked nipples, the baby's not latching for whatever reason, the mom looks to have milk, but the baby is still not gaining, all those signs point to, we need to do an oral assessment sooner rather than later, so then we can address it. So yes, it's out.
And so to that point, I just want to say to any moms that are listening who, number one, are either breastfeeding in the first week of your baby's life, or let's say you weaned your baby very early and you will have questions as to why. I really believe that those first 2 weeks are so crucial in getting the support that you need. If you wait until your baby's already a month old, yes, you can relactate. Yes, you can do all of these things to reestablish supply. Yes, you can still latch your baby. However, it's a lot more work.
Yep,
I think it's so much easier to just if you know that you want to breastfeed, as soon as your baby's out, if you can't get that baby skin to skin, or if there's any type of intervention in that regard, like trying to make sure, yes,
exactly. Yeah,
trying to make sure that everything's in line.
So many people prepare for birth, right? Chiropractor, massage, like all these things.
All these things.
You know, and then a lot of people do take breastfeeding classes. So if you know that you're going to be breastfeeding, have a lactation consultant lined up. Make sure that your hospital has lactation consultants postpartum so that you have that support immediately afterwards. Even if you think things are going well, I see so many people at the pediatrician's office that I work at, since it's covered through health insurance, who may just want to come in and just check to make sure everything's going okay. And I reassess their latch and they're like, oh, this feels so much better. So even what you're struggling through can be improved. So I would definitely help soon after delivery, for sure, just to get eyes on it, right?
I totally agree with that.
Make sure that they observe a feeding. Make sure that they see you latch the baby.
Right.
Peek, oh, it looks good, and then they head out the door. Even though I know that they are overworked, huge caseload, it's really hard. So if you don't feel like you're getting the attention that you need postpartum, right in postpartum, see if they have an outpatient clinic, or if you have the means to have an in-home consult, definitely do that.
Definitely. I did both of those with my my first baby, and then also with my second. And it's interesting, oh, it's okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. So I had an in-home consultation with my firstborn and also with my second. And it's funny, after I had my second, my lactation consultant told me, Vanessa, you know how to breastfeed.
Yeah.
Your baby, she's like, your baby doesn't know how to breastfeed, but you do. So you know what you need to do to make those adjustments. And I think it's always, especially like those, like side of the lip, like rolling that lip up. Yeah, roll it up. I mean, it's just like it's a very simple thing, but it makes a huge difference. You're sitting there making those faces like, and then as soon as you roll that lip up, it's like, oh, that was it?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like pointing that nose to nipple, making sure it's on so deep. And we say we don't nipple feed, we breastfeed. You want as much tissue in the mouth as possible, right? So tips and tricks like that can make a huge difference. And excuse me, it may just be something that you're not even thinking of or aware that it could be that easy of a fix.
So tell me a little bit about your private practice, Breastfed Babies.
Yeah.
I love that name, by the way. It's Bay as in B-A-Y.
Area, that's right.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So I knew I wanted to go into private practice just because I wanted the flexibility. Since I knew shortly after completing all of my education, I wanted to start a family. So I liked the idea of kind of the flexibility and seeing as many people as I wanted to see and backing off when I didn't. So it's an in-home consult. I have my little Mary Poppins bag full of all my tricks and demo dolls and bottles, and I go into people's homes and spend about 90 minutes or so with them and do pre and post weights if it's necessary, and always leave them with a feeding plan and follow up.
And so did the name Breastfed Babies, did that inspire your book title at all?
It did, yeah. At first I wanted to call it kind of Breastfed Babies Bay Area or Breastfed Babies San Francisco, but I didn't know if people, I feel like every time people type in my private practice, Google switches it to spell it the right way, babies. So,
so it's getting lost sometimes in translation.
It's like, did you mean babies without an Y? Since that's not how you spell babies.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, yeah. So
we'll talk more after.
I know.
We'll talk more after. I'm gonna work with you on that. We're gonna fix that.
So I just do breastfeeding all around, and it will be a series. So I started with breastfeeding all around the Bay, and then I want to do San Diego and LA, and then leave California and do New York and Chicago and Portland and just have like a huge amount of breastfeeding and children. Did a lot of media blasts and reached out to all of my contacts that I've ever worked at. I've had a lot of jobs because I volunteer a lot, and and people were so excited about the book. I was so humbled by the feedback that I got, that people are like, yes, we need breastfeeding in books. And yeah, I don't actually have many, if at all, books that show a baby being breastfed, let alone in public, or it being the whole focus of the book. So I'm excited, and people are excited for it to come out.
That's so exciting. Jasmine, do you have any kind of a shameless plug? Do you have a plug, or you can plug your social media, or do you have something big that's coming up, an event, a book signing, anything like that?
No book signing is coming up yet, but I am going to be, the ebook of the book is going to be out by Thanksgiving, so that is exciting. The actual physical copy of the book will be out in the spring, April 2020, and Breastfed Babies is my Instagram handle, and babies again is spelled BAYBIES.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know what? We truly appreciate having you on today. And if you have any other resources that you want to share with us and our community, we'd love to have you on anytime. Just reach out, and I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, my name is Vanessa Simmons, and I'm your host of the Normalize Breastfeeding podcast. We're looking forward to hearing your story and featuring you on this platform. Send us a message if you'd like to be featured, or email me directly at vanessa@normalizebreastfeeding.org.